Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Played the game,
or you know the game. You're better at this game, so you can blow me out. But I have better players. On live, I don't think you could do that.
Yeah, because again, the controls was kind of even par.
Or
you knew the controls for.
Well, not only that, even if I didn't, if I was novice on live and I picked the Lakers, right? Shaq can't run point. You know what I'm saying? On the old 2K games, I could ignore plays and just stand out there and dribble the ball with Shaq. And as long as I could do this before you could never get the ball.
You getting rock slapped on 2K.
but I'm
somebody gonna slap rock.
But you see what I'm saying?
Right.
That's the way I thought about the game. I was wrong.
Well,
I was wrong about that, and I enjoyed. Like I said, I enjoyed 2K13. You know what I'm saying?
It's very tight. Welcome to the Pick and Roll Podcast. It's Pick and Roll Podcast number 13.
Yes, it is. Lucky number 13.
Lucky number 13. I am Roderick Wallace.
I am Quentin Barry.
And again, this is the Pick and Roll Podcast. Took a couple weeks off. Had a very successful run on our last one with the Hold It Down commentary. And so we're rolling along. You can follow us at PAR Podcast. You can email us at pickandrollpodcast@gmail.com. Also, check us out at pickandrollpodcast.com, where you can see an archive of all of our old shows. They are fantastic.
They are.
People are really happy about it. And now we're at the point where we get the opportunity to dedicate our time to what the podcast really was built for originally, other than talking about hip-hop, other than talking about things in politics or whatever, but talking about the league. And I call it the league. There is the NBA, and then there is everything else.
Right.
Although the NFL is definitely
that's the shield
in the middle. Yeah, where we're starting to learn about who is who. Major League Baseball is currently in the World Series.
Right.
That probably nobody is
watching or cares. They had the worst ratings.
Royals to win, though.
Man,
I mean, just because the Royals have never been great in my lifetime. Since George Brett now. Since Dan Quisenberry with the submarines.
I don't buy into the lovable loser stuff. You know what I mean? And that's one of my main beefs with sports fans and I've already talked.
Of course not.
Well, no, because we used to be the doormat. So watch it.
That's true.
So I don't do the lovable loser stuff because it's all like I've talked about this on this show before. No one just roots for the underdog. That's fake. Okay. Have your squad and ride with your squad. If you win, you win. If you lose, you lose.
See, but my thing now is I'm a fan. I think that
this ain't Rocky.
I'm always gonna be like NBA. I'm always gonna be a Pistons fan because that's who I grew up watching. However, I'm a fan of the league in general. I can watch any team. I can watch any game and get something out of it.
That's me in the NFL. I don't have that same affinity for the NBA to where I can watch a Bucks Sixers game. Now, let me tell you what. I can attend any game, and so like how some people say they don't like watching baseball on TV, but they love to go to the park. You know what I mean? I'm like that with basketball. But with the NFL, it could be anybody.
So we want to look at, and the NBA season is literally a few days away from starting, but we want to look at it a little bit different than maybe you've heard in other podcasts and on other shows. We're not going to really get into a great deal of predictions, award predictions and things like that. We just want to get a general sense of, first of all, we want to acquaint you guys with what our kind of standard beliefs are about the league. We want to kind of start there and then look at the season from that perspective. So as the season progresses and you hear more and more shows and we talk more and more about the league, you'll kind of understand where we come from.
Right, because one of the most important things about the Pick and Roll Podcast, we discuss everything in context.
Yes.
It's not just about the moment. It's not just about what happened last week or what's going to happen next week. It's about, a moment in time. So we want to talk about the league. Yes. We want to talk about what's happening in current events. Yes. But the approach that we bring to that discussion is really what the most important thing is. And that's a lot of times I think when we listen to commentators on ESPN or whatever, we don't hear just, such and such is averaging this right now. Yeah, everybody knows that. But what does that mean in terms of content? What does it mean in terms of legacy, right? Okay. And so when we talk about players, we don't just talk about what they're doing right now. We're talking about what they mean to the history of the NBA.
Right.
And that's important conversations.
Right. So we want to talk about a little bit about our history in terms of the game, as well as some specific events that have happened throughout our course of being fans of the game.
Good.
And then kind of tie it together again. We wanted to kind of tie it together and kind of modernize things. So we're going to shoot some questions back and forth to each other. And we haven't really talked about the questions yet.
That's good.
I guess
these responses are fresh.
Yes, they are completely. It's all completely off the cuff. This is pick and roll. We pick things to talk about and we just kind of roll with it. And it is called the pick and roll.
It is.
You should
Pick and roll podcast. Let's do it.
So my first question to you is, what is the most memorable game you can recall? We've both seen hundreds, if not maybe thousands
of games,
or at least parts of those games. What is the most memorable game for you?
Wow, my life.
Yes.
Okay.
What game sticks out?
Bill Laimbeer, the repeat championship, I believe it was, when he hit the 6 threes from the top of the key. That game, I was in this. Okay, folks, this is why sports is cool. Okay, I'm in Boston at the time. Okay, and we were there because my aunt was graduating from Harvard, and so the whole family is gathered around. We're there to celebrate my aunt. But what's playing on the TV? All these people from Michigan are in Massachusetts, and we're watching the Pistons game, and Laimbeer goes off. And so the entire apartment is hoarded around this one little small television, and we are going nuts. And I'm there with my pops, and it's just kind of like, and don't get me wrong, my pops that are not like huge Pistons fans, you know what I'm saying? But we're from Michigan, so it's home team, And we're watching Laimbeer hit those 6 threes, and it was insane because it was like, wait a minute, what is he doing? He just pulled up again, and he pulled up again. That right there. And I think, as men, sometimes we do relate sports stories to our relationships with other men. It's how we get along, and then your relationship with your pops kind of comes into the conversation along the way, because a lot of times your first interest to at least watching sports is through some kind of a male figure. So that was a moment right there for me.
Okay. For me, I think I got into the league around 86 when it's actually 2 Celtics games.
Okay.
One of the first games I can remember was a game in the Celtics Rockets finals in 86. And hearing names like Greg Kite and Jared Seaston.
Greg Kite, wow.
Like Greg Kite had one game where he had like 10 points and 7 boards. Like he was playing for somebody that was hurt. And that's kind of like my first memory, like memorable game, because I did watch that game with my father.
Yeah.
And he was like yelling and screaming.
Yep.
But to me, the game that sticks out most to me is Celtics Hawks, Game 7. I want to say that was 1988. It was the Eastern Conference semifinals.
Okay.
Dominique finished with like 44, and Larry
Bird the war, yeah.
finished with like 47. It went to overtime. And Larry Bird, before the game, had actually guaranteed that they would win. And it was just, for me, the contrast in styles of those two kind of set the standard for what the league would look like from then until now. And this is 88 up until 26 years later.
Yeah.
So Dominique, very athletic.
Absolutely.
Being able to get to any spot on the floor.
At the rim, yep.
Mid-range game was on fire. Going to the basket at will. Larry Bird, very smooth, very precise, and they just went to war for, this 53 minutes, I think. And that game really made me, I recorded the game actually on VHS. And now you also had the game where Jordan hit the shot on the Cavs.
There's that.
And and those games are kind of memorable, but I remember I watched that Celtics Hawks game because it happened right before the summer started. I watched that game all summer.
Oh, wow.
And I really learned a lot about player movement, about how players rotated, about the skill that was involved. And that game really stuck out to me and made me love the league.
And see, and I think, then there's where I think we differ when it comes to the way we view sports. first and foremost, but just and then basketball specifically, because one of the things that I always gravitate towards in sports as a whole is the sheer physicality, the sheer athletic nature of some of these guys.
Okay.
It's like another moment with my pops was when Jordan against the Lakers is when he puts the ball inside the rim, takes it out, and then flips it around and kisses off the glass, and Phil Jackson over there laughing. At that moment, my father became enraged. Not because the Lakers were losing, he wasn't necessarily a Laker fan, but his attitude was like, Quentin, he could have dunked that ball.
Yeah.
It's just the idea that look at what these guys are capable. It's a circus. You know, it's like that is amazing that he could do that, have the wherewithal to pull that ball around and then pull it off. So that's the way I watch the game. When you see a physical specimen and you see the things that it's able to do, quickness, agility, speed, size, and then you add the mental game to it, you see all of that in an NBA game. And you see it, I mean, basically the whole game.
Agreed. The physicality, I think, is something that laymen don't necessarily give the proper respect to.
Fellas, this is how you get your woman to watch the game with you. Explain to, I'm telling you, it works. Explain to her that that's a 6-footer traveling at a speed that 6-footers should not travel.
Right. So my next question for you is, what is your favorite era of NBA basketball? Because, and I look at it really in 4 key areas. Okay, really 5. You have, for us in our lifetime, you know, you have the mid to late 80s.
Yeah.
You know, you have the early 90s,
right,
which kind of culminated for me with the Rockets winning their second championship.
Okay.
You could say that the Bulls with their titles kind of was
the Bulls era,
but I feel as though the league was different.
There was two shades to the Bulls.
When they won when they went on their second dynasty.
Yeah.
The league was different.
I agree.
And actually, the differences in the league actually filtered all the way through the Lakers winning their, I think they won 3 in a row. The Lakers winning their 3 in a row. To me, that's all kind of the same period. And then you had the mid 2000s up until maybe 2010, and then you had 2010.
Yeah, I think for me, my favorite period is Shaquille's NBA, and I think we're talking about the three-peat with the Lakers, and I think the league changed for me because this is when, and we're going back to the physicality portion of it. Yes. This is when basketball players became superheroes. When there was when they became machines. When there were no flaws. I mean, they were physical specimens. You didn't see guys coming in with water on them no more. There's no flabby, like the Oliver Miller days are over with. You know what I'm saying? Charles Barkley kind of stood strong in his time, but the guys that were, Shaquille O'Neal embodies what it meant to be in that league at that time.
Okay.
And so you have, Shaq and Kobe, that little run. I'm not a Laker fan, okay, but Shaq and Kobe, and during that run and the teams that they had to face, Portland,
San Antonio.
There were amazing athletes during that time, and I think that is probably my most exciting. I remember, what was the game, and this is a Lakers Spurs moment when Derek Fisher hit the last second shot. It was .2 left on the clock. I mean, that was
the year the Pistons won.
The year the Pistons won, 04. Yeah. So that time, think about the players that were playing at a high level at that time. You have a good cross section of the era that we're talking about, the late 90s, and the beginning of this new generation when LeBron just kind of steps in and takes over. So you have Tim Duncan, controlling, holding court. You have Shaquille O'Neal, you got Kobe Bryant, you got all of these players, and the league at that time was balanced too. So what I mean by balanced is where we don't necessarily see dominant centers anymore. There were still centers in the league then. There were still true point guards and scoring point guards.
Zydrunas and Silvescu still in the league.
Big Z.
Z.
But George Muresan was not. Okay?
George Muresan was not.
No, I think he was still right. But you didn't have these hybrids as much.
Right.
You didn't have teams that were all guard heavy. There were teams that had balance, and I think that's got to be my favorite time in the NBA.
I think for me, I would still have to say, and it's not even from a nostalgic perspective, I would say the mid to late 80s.
Okay.
And because on any given night, because there was limited, at that point there was still a certain degree of limited exposure. When TNT and TBS showed games, or the game came on Sunday afternoon or something like that, it was still a very limited amount of teams that were on. So you really had to be captivated by it. Other than that, you may have caught something on ESPN, which was still in its fledgling days, where you had to read box scores. And I like how during that time, on any given night, anybody could light you up. Mm-hmm. Like, you would look up and Ricky Pierce would have 22. You know what I'm saying? 22 at the half. You know what I'm saying? That kind of, and that kind of thing still happens. But it's funny to me how during those days, I had an opportunity to really study, and really get into, the league as a youngster, to the point where I was writing letters to teams and stuff, and teams were sending me autographed pictures and stuff. I was that much of a fan when I was a kid. And that, and then you look at the players that you had during that time, Magic and Bird and Bernard King. Everybody had somebody that would light your ass up. Yeah. Jeff Malone for the Bullets would light you up. The Heat and the Magic and all of them, they had just kind of come around. Yeah. But, I'm thinking about the Knicks. You would have a game where Johnny Newman would have 24. You know what I'm saying? Or, and so to me, that's my favorite time. I will say the 90s, I do consider the 90s to be the golden age for a lot of things in America, in American history. True. Whether we're talking about hip hop, whether we're talking about
sports in general. Yeah, sports in general.
Because in the 90s you had the Dream Team, you had a spattering of players throughout the league also that were really making a huge impact. And as the league was kind of starting to grow on a global level, players that really made a big difference. I'm not a big fan of the time at which the league was trying to go through a transition where it was trying to understand what was physical play and what wasn't. And the physical side of it is what I really liked about the mid to late 80s too. The hand checking rules was different. The level of contact was different. It was physical. It was physical. And in the, it was like in the mid to late 90s, it just got very ugly. You know what I'm saying? When you think about a team like Philadelphia going to the finals, I mean, you had one unstoppable scorer. You had a couple guys that'd give you, and he was a volume scorer. Yes. At best, Allen Iverson. Not to take anything away from him and what he did, but he was alone.
He
for
definitely
him to be
alone.
in the finals with Aaron McKee and Brian Shaw,
Eric Snow,
and Tyrone Hill. Snow, excuse me. And
was Van Horn on that squad, or he came after that? Was Keith Van Horn on that squad?
I think Van Horn was there before, because I think during that time Van Horn was with the Nets.
The Nets,
yeah. Van Horn.
He was dope on live.
Oh
wow, yeah. Van Horn was dope on live. Go ahead.
Here we go. See.
Go ahead.
See. Sam Cassell on the
Sam
Bucks.
Cassell. Oh wow.
Shout out to Joe Tyner. Sam Cassell.
Joe Smith.
Big Dog Robinson. And Ray Allen. But nevertheless, it was, to me, that was a really important time for me. Okay. My next question. And we can kind of move on past these. I want to talk to you who is the most liked, endeared player that is actually overrated to you?
Allen Iverson.
Okay. Why? Well, we actually kind of just talked about it.
Yeah, Allen, and the reason why is because Allen Iverson got a lot of, I think he got a lot of acknowledgement from NBA fans, pedestrian NBA fans. Okay, and that's what drives fandom in all sports, right? The pedestrian fan who doesn't necessarily know the ins and outs of the game, but it's a spectacle, right? So it's like me going to watch a soccer match, right? I do not know all of the nuances and all of what it takes to become a great soccer player, so I'm going to look to see who's the most exciting looking. You see what I'm saying? Okay. And I'm going to enjoy that as a pedestrian fan. Right. I'm going to get into the pageantry. I'm going to get into wow, look at that. Right. Well, man, he the toughest ever. Yeah. Who 6 foot and can do. Look, dog. When you're at that position, shooting guard position, if you're not able to shoot at a clip above 42-43% on a consistent basis, your team's not going to win very many games.
True.
And that's the game of basketball. We've talked about this before. Sports are math. And we have X amount of shots. If you're not going to make this many shots at your position,
75 shots a game.
75 shots a game.
Per team.
If you're going to shoot 9 of 27,
yes,
you're not going to do well. And that means you're that kind of player. You don't get to out-style the game. Yes. And that basketball is bigger than any one persona. And the league has taught many players this over the years. Mm-hmm. The greats have all had to shift what they have done in order to fit the game. The game takes you in a direction that you may not necessarily want to go. Okay? Sean Kemp used to cram people's faces in for 2 or 3 years until they stopped letting him get that close. Now what?
Start putting a bow in his jail.
Right. Now what? Then we seen Sean Kemp trying to turn into Karl Malone.
But Sean Kemp would knock down.
He would knock down that 12-footer. I understand.
You know what I'm saying?
But that's my point. So and guess what? So over time, you've seen that power forward position change, and now we end up with LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah.
You see, here's Allen Iverson. Here's Allen Iverson. Who's Allen Iverson in modern day NBA? Derrick Rose. It's Derrick Rose with a slightly better jumper. With a slightly better jumper. Is it consistent?
Is he Russell Westbrook?
No. Russell Westbrook I don't think he has a beginning. I think Russell Westbrook's a different kind of player. We'll talk about that on another day.
Yeah, sure.
But regardless, what I'm saying is Allen Iverson is the most overrated ever.
And actually, that was my choice too.
Yeah, because I don't understand outside of style, personality. You know what I mean? I don't understand why he's lauded as such a great NBA player because he went by himself. We've seen that before.
Right.
He got MVP. We've seen that before.
Right.
What has he done that no one else has done?
When you think about efficiency, and we over the course of this podcast, my intention is not to throw around a lot of these newfangled stats.
We're in the metrics.
And the metrics and things of that nature. But when you think about efficiency, I look at ball players as fitting my own personal desire for a system, although that system can be a number of different systems.
Absolutely.
But my expectation for the point guard is to be fairly efficient, be able to go to the basket, be able to dump it off, as well as to be able to knock down a 15-footer, but be able to play the background.
Zeke.
You know what I'm saying? Isaiah would light you up, but he would also have 9 assists. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And it was just because most of the time he was the quickest person on the court.
Period. Which is the point guard supposed to be.
Let's fast forward. Let's talk about 14-15 a little bit. Who do you think is under the most pressure this year? Who do you think has the most pressure? And right now,
that's a good question.
Right now, to be honest with you, I'm gonna say I'll answer this one first. It is Russell Westbrook.
Think so?
And I'm gonna tell you why. Because Kevin Durant, they're looking at him missing the first quarter of the season.
Yeah.
You have somebody else is hurt on his team too. I think it may be Steven Adams.
Give me a minute.
He got hurt recently or whatnot. Here you have an opportunity for Russell Westbrook to be able to prove his mettle. Although Russell Westbrook's accomplishments can't necessarily go, understated.
No, they speak for themselves.
But when Durant was in a similar position last year, we saw him ascend to MVP. And not to say, I think if this was any other time in NBA history where you didn't have LeBron James in the league, he probably would have been MVP.
Absolutely.
If he was around in, the late 80s, wow.
Dominate.
Here, Russell Westbrook has the opportunity to show that he has completely matured as a player and as a leader. He can be a bit cantankerous, but we all acknowledge the fact that he has a lot of game. So I want to see what he's able to do. And mind you, I'm really happy about the fact that the talent in Oklahoma City continues to develop. Sam Presti continues to wow me, because we finally have the proverbial death, supposedly, of Kendrick Perkins. The deal that no one would take, Sam Adams.
That was loud.
Adams is kind of, I think it's Sam Adams. He's kind of taking that spot, and moving, kind of bumping Kendrick Perkins away. You have Mitch McGary. I want to see what Mitch McGary does too. We talked about that when we talked about the draft.
Did. That was early.
But they need that. They need him to play that role. You have Lamb, who's been relatively underwhelming throughout his career up to this point, but he plays a crucial role, and he doesn't have to do much.
No, he doesn't.
You know what I'm saying?
He can just exist, go out there and play his game, take his cuts, and then he can pick his spots whether he want to try to put up numbers or not.
And another thing that's really interesting to me is the development of Reggie Jackson as their third guard.
Yeah, I'd like to see him get a lot more playing time this year.
Yeah,
I'd like to see him get a lot more playing time.
I would look forward to seeing Jackson playing a lot more with Westbrook.
Yeah,
and letting Westbrook play off the ball a little bit more. So to me, I feel like he's under the most pressure.
Are we just limiting this to player?
And another thing, because their window.
Oh yeah.
When we talk about, and although 2017 salary cap is going to be changing, the new TV deal, this, that, and the third, their window, and this is why Harden isn't there. NBA team windows to be successful, you have a 3 to 4 to 5 year window in most cases.
Right, unless you have a legend.
Exactly.
Right.
Unless you can completely build, and Kevin Durant is a legend.
He's that guy.
But I'm concerned about how long Durant and Westbrook are going to be able to stay together from the perspective of a salary situation. Durant's deal is up at the end of this year. You know what I'm saying? And people are already trying to speculate about where he's going and what he's going to do, and nobody actually knows. But you have to consider these young players that are, that have been coming up through the last few years. They're getting older. Their deals are changing around. So,
and that's why I think that. And see, that's why I don't say I disagree, but that's why I don't think there's that much pressure on Westbrook.
Okay.
One, because of the market he plays in. Okay. That's number one. Number two, people will give him the mulligan because Kevin Durant's not there. They're not going to give Kevin Durant the same mulligan. You see what I'm saying? Because Kevin Durant is that guy. He's top 1, top 2, the top 3 players in the league. We've discussed Russell Westbrook as top 3 of his position. Nobody talks about.
But isn't this his opportunity? Isn't this his opportunity to move into?
No, because of the position that he's played, the person who he's played behind, the organization that he plays for, and the nature of the league in which he's playing in. Nobody's expecting Russell Westbrook to be MVP. He's never in MVP discussions.
Never up to this point.
Never up to this point, and they're not going to. Now, if he literally carries the team, then they will begin to do that. But that don't mean there's pressure on him to do that. That's if it happens. I think the most pressure lies in Indiana.
See, I disagree. Go ahead.
The Indiana Pacers, starting from the coach and to the big man, they could either be perennial playoff contenders, or they could blow that thing up and they'd be Milwaukee by 2020. That's on deck. That fan base is rabid. They want a winner. They've been so close these few times. They've been getting beat up by the same guy, and he stands a chance to beat them up again.
Yeah.
They may blow that thing up soon.
You trade David West.
Yes.
Roy Hibbert is he may not be tradable, but what we saw the second half of the year doesn't give you a lot of confidence.
Right.
They lose Lance Stevenson.
Who is Paul George? What does Paul George do in the NBA right now?
Paul George doesn't exist.
And
they have to consider that. I mean, you're looking at a team that's going to get a lottery pick at best. It's not a top 3, top 4 pick. I mean, David West is not going to carry this team offensively.
Nowhere near.
So
the pressure's on Paul George, and I was going to pick a player. That man stands to either make $100 million throughout the rest of his career, or like 50. Think about his next deal. Think about his next deal and what a team would offer a guy like Paul George if Indiana tanks. Who is Paul George, and what can he offer your team? Is he that known of a commodity at this point where he can walk into another team and say, hey, I'm the man?
So do you blow it up now? Do you say blow it up? Do you trade George Hill? Do you trade? I mean, for real, do you trade George Hill? Do you get rid of David West?
You got to get rid of David West.
Okay.
Because that's your most tradable, I think, commodity at this point. Okay. And you know what? As a guy like David West, who's already been to war with New Orleans a few times, you know what I'm saying? This is a guy, yeah, man. That guy, he's got some stripes out here in the league. I think David West is a guy that might be ready to get traded. He might be ready to go to a winner.
But you don't think that his appetite was whetted with what he saw last year?
Yeah, but think about, New Orleans won against the Lakers a couple of times.
Right.
Now he got to go up against LeBron.
Right.
So, what is he gonna do? I mean, is he gonna ever get there?
I don't know.
He might be panicking.
I just want to say that most likely what we need to come to grips with is who is most likely to be their leading scorer this year. Rodney Stuckey.
There you go.
Rodney
There
Stuckey.
you go.
Rodney is going to go to the bricks.
Why are you bringing him up?
6'5", 205. I want to see Rodney Stuckey compete for the most improved player this year. He had a good start last year. Look, and people, I'm a Rodney Stuckey fan. I am. Although he typically does not shoot over 40%, I always thought that he had the capability to be good.
The poor man's D Wade.
The poor man's D freaking Wade. Do you feel me? And at the end of the day, he's in an environment now where he's not the sixth man. He's going to start. He'll get value. He'll get plenty of shots.
Oh my God.
They'll be giving him the ball with 8 seconds left on the shot clock.
Not time.
You know what I'm saying?
I like to visit your town. Listen, I did not say. Listen, man. If this goes south, blame it on Rod Wallace. He's asking Rodney Stuckey to lead your team.
Hey,
I didn't say it.
Rodney Stuckey, my vote for most improved player of the year. Let's see.
All right, I got a question for you.
Who's under pressure for you?
Yeah, it's gonna be the entire Indiana organization, from coach all the way on down. Paul George, of course, when he gets healthy, that's going to be the guys under pressure. So I got a question for you.
Go for it. Shoot.
All right, now we're talking about context in the NBA, right?
Sure.
Will we ever see another big man?
Yes. As long as there's guys that's 6'11".
No.
I didn't say 7'3".
I said big man, not guys that are tall.
Oh, define big man.
Patrick Ewing. Olajuwon. Shaq is not allowed in the discussion because he fits that's mutant race. I'm talking about centers.
Okay. What do you call Andre Drummond?
A big four.
Really?
Yeah. The way he plays, he doesn't play with his back to the basket. He's
improving.
He's improving. LaMarcus Aldridge.
Okay.
Big four.
6'11".
Big four.
You're right.
There's always been big Everybody's fours. Karl Malone.
Mikal was a big four.
Big four. But he had, now Parrish is not a great center. I think he's a great center.
7 foot.
7 foot, but
we're not talking about size.
We're not talking about size. We're talking about playing the center position.
I don't know. And because you have to always drill it down to the lower rungs of, of organized basketball.
Can't talk about the greats all the time.
Typically, the players that develop in AAU and develop in high school are not developing back to the basket moves, or not to the degree that is required of them to be dominant.
There you go.
At that part of the game. Players are being taught about the importance of being able to knock down a 15-footer with consistency. Do I think that there will ever be another? I think that there will, but just as they're few and far between at this point.
Yeah.
Even when we talk about the times at which happened earlier in the show, like in the mid to late 80s, that's what big men did. Even when you look at somebody like James Donaldson from the Mavericks, Roy Tarpley, John Koncak.
John Koncak. Wow.
That's how they
Chris
learned
Dudley.
how to play the game. But what I will say is positions, just as they are in the All-Star team, are becoming less important. Mm-hmm. The degree of athleticism when you talk about a 6'8", 6'9" guy playing against a 6'11", 7-footer, there really isn't any difference anymore.
No difference.
Now, I will always believe that I want my biggest guy in the middle, on the blocks, back to the basket, boxing out.
Unless you're Dirk.
Right. But he's a freak.
But that's what I'm saying. Inside that lower rung, do we have that skill set being taught?
No.
And that's what I'm saying. Unless you're a freak of nature, can you play center?
I think Okafor is a big guy. Jahlil Okafor, supposed to be drafted next year. I think he's a big guy. I've never seen him play. I haven't actually read any scouting reports on him, but I would be curious to see where that is. I mean, I think that who is the last truly great post player that we've seen? Is it Tim Duncan?
Probably.
I like Greg Monroe's post game.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, but that left hand is weak. I think it's probably Tim Duncan, a guy who can literally get to where he needs to get and make a shot just with footwork. Right. Because that's what it is to play in the post.
And be able to instinctively get a shot up based on his reaction to your body.
There you go.
Which is, to me, just as much of a skill as being able to break somebody down off the dribble.
Absolutely.
Based off their reaction.
Footwork, feeling out contact. Yeah.
To answer your question, yeah, I think that there will be one. But as the league continues to develop, I think that you'll have guards and forwards.
Yeah. You see how we tried to get all the help that Dwight Howard could possibly get. And he had the body for it.
Let me tell you a story real quick. I watched the video earlier today on YouTube, and I'll put a post to it in on the show. The 93-94 Houston Rockets championship video. Dude. Akeem, if you work with Akeem for 3 months,
come on,
you're supposed to be out there.
You're supposed to be out there
cold because it's a skill set that you don't see, and maybe it's because the players are too athletic or something. I don't know, but at the end of the day, if you can do the things that he was doing, you would be unstoppable in the NBA.
Sick, man. He doesn't get his due. He doesn't get his due. By the way,
he doesn't.
He doesn't get his due. Dream was sick.
No, he doesn't. Maybe for our generation.
Still.
In terms of...
we should know better.
No disrespect to Shaq.
No
disrespect to Shaq at all. But he might be the best center of our generation. And I don't think that's weird to say that. I don't think we take anything away from Shaq, but technically...
There's things that Dream could do that literally nobody else was able to do at that time.
Agreed.
And like I said, I don't think he gets... his due respect. I don't think we're ever gonna recognize him until we're forced to. I guess
it's like Shaq was like Jay-Z, and like Elijah Wan was like Marshall Mathers era Eminem.
Yeah.
Like
he was
technically
sick.
He just could do whatever.
All right, I got another question for you.
And we'll make this the last one.
All right, we kind of almost got there with this with the questions about OKC. When it comes to tandems, all right, we have an official one in OKC when they're healthy, right? Mm-hmm. We had one, and it kind of became something else in Miami, right? Okay. It became a big three, right? Will we see another? What's the greatest tandem? Mike and Scotty. Will we see another tandem like that? Kobe and Shaq. Mike and Scotty.
Because
Russell and KD.
When you look at the last 20, 25 years, conventional wisdom says that you need to have 2 all-star caliber players in order to compete for a championship.
That's right.
And even when you look at the Pistons that won in 2004, even when you look at them, instead of having 2 bona fide all-star Hall of Fame level caliber players, you had 4 guys who conceivably could have been on an all-star team during that time, and 4 guys who actually were on an all-star team during that time.
Alternate.
And you had, but nope, Chauncey
was legit.
Rashid and Ben all played. Now, yes, this is going to be something that's going to continue to happen, but especially because it's a copycat league, just as anything else is a copycat situation.
Well, okay, let me step back for a second, because will they be matching talent? Because we know what it takes to win. But when I talk about a tandem, guys that play together, unstoppable, guys that play together. I'm not talking about.
Are we talking about guys that come into the league and they grow together on the same team?
There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't know. I mean, you look. Okay, so look at.
You see what I'm saying? The difference, like we could put two guys on the same team.
Right. Look at Portland. You have Portland with LaMarcus Aldridge, top 4 power forward in the league, and you have Damian Lillard, who's very young,
right,
but has been very successful early in his career. You have, you put pieces around them.
Yeah, they can
we'll see what happens.
They can do a lot.
You have, and I'm just looking at young people. I want to see what Lance Stevenson and Al Jefferson do, but because they're two very different players, but their skill sets complement each other. You have a backguard guy. You have a backcourt guy that can score on the wing, but is also very unselfish. And you have a machine. Al Jefferson can score.
Yeah, he is on anybody.
You know, I guess of course it can happen. It can happen. Anything can happen. But general managers have to look at the fact that you need 2 very dominant players to win championships in this league. Period. Point.
It's been, and like you said, it's been like that way for a long time.
Steph Curry.
Who we going? Man, can we get somebody?
I like Clay. I don't think Clay is that guy though. I don't think he's worth.
Can we get somebody for Boogie?
Boogie gonna leave. Boogie ain't staying in Sacramento. Wait, did he sign his max deal there?
I don't know.
Is it time for his max deal? Yeah. Wait, I think he did sign his max deal.
I gotta check that out. We gotta get somebody out there. Somebody
Rudy
go out there and play with Boogie, man.
Rudy Gay.
Yeah.
You know, Rudy Gay and DeMarcus Cousins showed up in the Olympics. I mean, Olympics.
Rudy Gay will do like a 12. He'll hit you with that 12, but it'll be 18 for the rest of the week. You know, I just
Rudy
don't
Gay
know.
Is like Rudy Gay give you like a 7 for 16.
Yeah.
Night, with like 3 boards, like 4 assists and 3 turnovers. You know, I mean straight up. And I mean they have they picked up Stauskas, who won't help very much this year. No. He just doesn't have a lot of help.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
You know, I don't see them competing.
He can go nuts.
The West. I mean, the West is kind of set. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you have the Clippers, you have Portland, you have San Antonio. Dallas will be dangerous.
Yep.
I want to see what Chandler Parsons does.
That's going to be interesting.
He's 6'9".
Yeah, that I was saying before we started, man. It's been a minute. Just being real with y'all. I usually don't start watching games, like all games, until Christmas Day. Real talk. It ain't gonna be like that this year. Yeah. I'm watching the game. There's gonna be so many interesting storylines to see play out this NBA season. It's gonna be a real exciting year, folks.
And even the bad teams. I want to see what the Greek Freak do. Giannis.
I want to see. Yeah, I want to see that. I want to watch Philly again.
Yeah.
Like, Philly was almost my squad. You know, they just traded everybody.
I think Nerlens gonna be out there pinning people's stuff.
I think the Knicks are just gonna be a dumpster fire, and you have to watch that. They're just gonna be a dumpster fire, bro. It's gonna be ugly in New York.
Derek Fisher, Phil Jackson, Carmelo. Is JR still there?
Yeah, man.
Wow.
It's gonna be exciting.
Boston, what happens with Rondo?
Trash.
Cleveland is going to be Cleveland.
Cleveland, we'll see what they do.
Is Drummond going to continue to develop? What is Monroe going to do? Because you know he pissed off he didn't get that money.
They got to get him out of there.
What is Rose hit 27 last night. Yeah. What is Derrick Rose going to do? And now that he has some additional help in the post, how lethal will they be? Well, how long is Al Horford going to stay in Atlanta?
That's what I want to know right there. That's the man.
Is Wade going to stop getting rested and
play basketball for a living?
And you know what? I could see them in the playoffs.
They're going to the playoffs.
Easy.
They're going to the playoffs. Easy. Well, that's not really much to be said in the East, though.
Bosh is the number 1 on that team. Why you laughing at that?
Because it's true.
Straight up.
It's still funny.
Right.
Houston, they got to blow that up. They got to blow it up. They got to. They're not, man. Come on, man.
They got rid of Lynn.
Yeah.
They got rid of Lynn.
Come on, man.
You got Harden. You got.
Until you
Terrence
get that,
Jones,
until everybody got to come to the table.
Better.
Everybody got to come to the table at the same time.
It's gonna be better.
A lot of too many unknowns, man.
Trevor Ariza.
Yeah, Trevor Ariza
is the quintessential wing.
Yeah, he is.
Phoenix. You know, small in the backcourt, but they backcourt be balling, right?
It's gonna be
fun. The Lakers.
Dumpster fire again. Dumpster fire.
Throw the couch in the dumpster.
They're just gonna. They are. Watch the stands. That's all I got for all you Laker fans.
Right.
Watch the stands.
Chris Paul and Blake Griffin they're
gonna do what they do.
They'll win another 52.
They're gonna do what they do. Golden State gonna
go out in the semifinals.
Golden State gonna be scary again, but still not be able to,
Right. Can Bogut and Lee hold it down in the middle? Because what's they called? The Splash Brothers.
No, I'm over that.
Curry,
OKC.
Curry might be. Let me say this. Curry might be.
Hold up.
The most pure shooter I've seen since
Okay.
A Mark Price.
I was about to say. You know what? This is why we do the show together, because Mark Price is the guy.
Water. He saved Kid Gilchrist's jumper. Have you ever seen Kid Gilchrist fall?
The chicken wing?
Brother, his elbow be touching like the left side of his chest when he shoots.
The chicken wing.
He got some Anthony Mason type shit.
Or who used to shoot like that with his elbow tucked in like that? It ain't. Well, Shawn Marion is a whole nother chapter of discussion.
And that's another thing I love about the league. Nobody's jump shot. That's something that is individual.
Yes, it is.
And it is difficult to break.
And it's regional. What I come to find out, I've been listening. Man, you done told me to brush up. Right?
It's regional.
There's some regional things going on with these jump shots. Yo, like there are people that shoot like they're from this area of the country.
Get out of town.
Yeah, I'm just I'm just listening to people talk about. We're talking about old cats, like not even NBA analysts, basketball guys who coach AAU, who coach college teams, and they're saying, well, yeah, he's got one of those back east jumpers. What?
I love it.
He's got one of those jumpers that you learn in a gym in Florida, or one of those Indiana rotations.
When we was young, we used to call like if we were talking about Stephen Curry, we would say that his J is wet.
It's wet. Drano. Wet.
Oh, we need to use that more often. His J is wet.
It's wet. They use that for food now.
Right. They do.
Yeah, it's wet. If it's good, it's wet.
Who is they?
With 2 T's. Negroes.
His J is okay, cool. So yes, we'll be coming in. Our plan is to, and you know what? Let's just kind of get this out here and just get it over with, just for the sake of being able to refer back to this later on in the year, just to put it out there. I'm gonna say an award. Who do you have? Real quick.
It's gonna take too much time.
No, it won't. Right. And I don't want no commentary.
All right.
At all. Here we go. MVP.
Derrick Rose.
LeBron. Most improved player. Stuckey.
Well, you going with Stuckey. Shit. Okay. Drummond.
Ooh.
I'll go with that.
Defensive player of the year. Easy.
That's LeBron. Because he's going to have to. He's going to be on the number 1 every night.
And that's all he needs to do.
Yeah. He's going to get equal.
I'm going to say Noah or Ibaka. I'm going to say Noah or Ibaka.
Ibaka gets exposed this year.
Okay.
Noah's tough. That's a good pick, but Ibaka gets exposed this year.
Unexpected team to ball.
Atlanta. It's going to be Atlanta. A lot of money on the line.
Got to be an Eastern Conference team.
Yeah, it's Atlanta.
I'm going to say
for me.
I'm going to say the Pistons.
Okay.
Coach of the year.
Shit. I can't call it.
Coach of the year is tough.
Yeah. Give it to Tibbs again.
You could always go Pop, but
no.
Again,
I'll give it to Tibbs again because they don't have a reason to be a threat right now.
Right.
And I think that they will be.
I'm gonna go Carlisle.
Yes.
I'm gonna go Carlisle.
Yes.
He's
weathered the storm. Man, Carlisle man. Can we get this guy a little more?
No, I have no comment. I don't even know why they got rid of him. I've heard stories, but I'm not even getting into that.
Yeah.
NBA champ. Finals. 2 teams in the finals.
The Cavaliers aren't making it, so. Shit.
Why?
They're not.
Don't have the depth?
No, they don't have the depth, okay, I'm saying it now.
Quickly.
He's too small.
Okay.
LeBron's too small. All right, so he's too small.
Everybody
loves it. No, it's not good for him. So the Spurs are going right back. The Spurs are going right back, and shit, Chicago.
Okay, I said the same thing.
Fine with that.
I would say Cavs and Spurs. I just don't see, But you know what? Let me temper that. I'm gonna say Cavs and Thunder. I'm gonna say.
Wow, really?
The Thunder, their depth has improved.
You think they can get there?
The Spurs, I don't see them a year later.
As long as they line up, I'm not betting against them.
Okay.
I don't do that.
So that is our initial NBA preview. We've set our defaults. I know what he likes. He knows what I like. He knows what I don't believe. He knows that I think Bernard King is
that guy
lighting you up for 55, shooting all mid-range J's.
All mid-range, straight up and
That's my
down.
favorite time of the league. So we'll take it from there. So let's switch gears for a few minutes. And let's talk about this momentous occasion. I shouldn't even have said that. I should have just kind of just brought it in and just kind of let it ride.
Well, you went with your first mind.
People who have listened to the podcast know how critical I have been of 2014 as a year in context of hip-hop major releases. And I say major releases because, as I also said on the podcast, if you learn how to look, you can find what you want.
Absolutely.
Mick Jenkins dropped a nice release. You can feel how you felt about Ab Soul. Spatterings here and there. My album of the year up to this point has been Pinata, Madlib, and Freddie Gibbs.
Yep.
And then Apollo Brown and Ras Kass dropped Blasphemy. Now, when I first heard it was happening back in late August, I think, early September, I was excited and I knew that it would be a contender for the best album of the year. So needless to say, the release date is Tuesday, October 28th.
Right, and they had dropped that Memories track too early too.
Yeah, that H2O.
Yeah,
that was, and then the video for Humble Pie came out.
Yeah,
and set me and all of my hip hop heads on fire. When he said he slam dunking planets, his semantics damn near tantric or something crazy. But anyway, the album drops. The album is fire.
Yes, it is.
Now, Apollo Brown's production is an acquired taste. I'll also say that if you haven't heard the album and you're expecting a pristine baseline studios, Young Guru, DJ Mustard mix,
you're in the wrong building. You're
in the wrong zip code.
Yeah.
Very grimy. And actually it's funny because throughout the course of the album, there's a record popping track that kind of goes in and out here and there. And but I knew what to expect from an Apollo Brown album based on the other things that he's done. Member of Mellow Music Group. He's also done similar albums of this nature with OC, as well as done some in-house production for the Axon Mellow Music Group. He also did a really fantastic Rhythm Roulette a couple of months ago for Mass Appeal. We'll put a link to that in the description as well. But the album is phenomenal. I don't really get excited about mainstream albums to the point where if I do get it, I'll listen to it once and I'll run across it online. I'll listen to a stream of it. And I typically either will keep it and it'll go into like the archive.
Yeah.
Or it'll be something that kind of comes and goes where there may be a couple joints that I kind of pull off of it. But first of all, let me start by saying that Ras Kass was the golden child, to use a pun. But when he first dropped his verse on "Come With It" off the Street Fighter soundtrack, I was like, "Who is this
guy?"
Right. Solo Nice comes out, groundbreaking album.
Nature of the Threat,
but an album that is known in hip hop circles for being one of the only albums in hip hop history that is completely carried by the lyrical content. The beats are passable at best, and they work for him because his personality and his lyrical content carry things so far. Personally, I don't mind the beats, and I guess I don't mind the beats because of what he's spitting.
And that's what makes it a lyrical album.
So then Ras Assassination comes out, which is more of a commercial effort.
Yep.
I loved it.
Oh, it was great. I thought it was great.
It doesn't, to me, it doesn't have a fast. I've always thought that Ras Assassination was a 4.5, 5 mic album, and people have disagreed with me. But
yeah, I wouldn't.
When you think about Ras Assassination, Conceited Bastard,
yes,
Ice Age, Interview with a Vampire,
yes. Oh man. Well,
Get At Me.
I'm gonna be up late tonight. I'm gonna be up late tonight.
What's the last song called with the RZA? The End.
The End.
And all of those things in between. Wild Pitch. Just I loved it.
These are
the
great
joint
tracks.
he got with Twista when he said you coming up short like 2 midgets masturbating or something like that. My man. And then Golden Child, you know, and H2O Proof and all that, but Golden Child, Van Gogh ran into industry politics, didn't get along with his label, caught a couple cases, DUIs, had a terrible drinking problem, Passable mixtapes came out.
All the way around the block with that boy, man.
Kind of came back with, what is the name of that mixtape? I didn't like the first one that he dropped, but there was one, it wasn't Barmageddon, but he had one that I really liked. He had some real good joints on there. Lyrical content in terms of what he was actually spitting about changed and became a little bit more easier for the palate.
Softer. It was applesauce for the children.
But on this album, he kind of returns to some of the more controversial tones that need to be addressed in hip hop.
Yes.
You know, the proclivity for commercialism, religion, and how religion impacts, or how religion has been impacted by history, and how that entire side of understanding of religion is downplayed. All of that kind of comes into play on this album, and I love it.
And then putting it into a context where it's not like, okay, so I don't need to enjoy the lyrics. I don't feel like I have to go and get my Google search working. Like, I can just let what he's saying stand on its own. Right. Now, I mean, when we're listening to Ras Kass, especially Soul and Ice, like, we're impressionable. You know what I'm saying? So when we hear Nature of the Threat, our minds are ready for something like that. And whether or not we go find it on our own is up to us. But at that time, you know, we're on the other side of the game now. You know what I'm saying? So we can kind of let that rest. But even if I was, you know, still in my 20s, or, you know, as a teenager, I'm hearing what I'm hearing right now, I'm getting the same feeling. Like, wow, like this, like I never heard anybody speak like that. You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, I have, because I'm a Ras Kass fan. But if I'm 16 and I'm hearing this album right now, it's changing the way that I listen to rap music.
If you are open.
If you're open to that level, yeah, you're right. You're right. If you're even, yeah, you gotta bring some of yourself to the game. But, you know, he speaks in such a direct manner. It's not like he's teaching it. You understand what I'm saying? It's not like he's giving us a sermon. He's spitting. You know what I'm saying? And he's rhyming.
Yes.
He's just talking about a topic that's near and dear to him.
Yes.
And I guess that's the difference.
Yes. Completely. I completely agree. I completely think that
oh man,
he's able to subtly, and he's in our age range.
Yes.
Let's put that out there.
He's 37.
30, something like that.
Yeah.
And so he's able to entertain, be able to speak crassly about certain things, about relationships.
Right.
At the same time, he's able to talk about some of the deeper topics. So when you think about balance, and I think balance is something that we seek as hip hop heads, we seek for that balance. Somebody who's able to have 2 feet on the ground in the real world, but be able to tackle things from a very critical sense. Mm-hmm. He's doing that, and it's a different feeling from him than it would be from a lot of 30-something year old rappers, where they seem to be on too far on one side of the fence.
Or they get preachy.
Like, no disrespect, but Cormega's album.
Yeah.
You really like Cormega's album. It didn't really stick with me because
it was preachy though.
It came off as too preachy.
It was.
And we all live hypocritical lives. You know what I'm saying? You know, just based on the conversation we had before we started recording. You know what I'm saying? So, for me, Lyrically, I mean, if we want to look at it from the perspective of the different facets of the album, lyrically, obviously, he's there. The mixing of the album, sometimes, like I said, it can throw people off if it's not something that you expect. The first song, How to Kill God, the first thing I thought, I heard the beat, and the beat is just crazy, and but the mixing of his vocals was a little bit hard to understand in my system, this, that, and the third, but when I got a chance to listen to them in my headphones, spit.
Oh my God, man.
Spit.
Oh my God. And we need to get back to headphone albums, by the way. You know what I mean? A lot of times these studio albums, I like headphone albums. Because you hear all the switches and like that voice comes through clear.
Yeah.
I love headphone albums. But like we were talking about before, the only downfall that I see of this album is Apollo Brown's approach to these tracks is a little bit formulaic. Okay, so you get the soul sample. You see how he's either sped that up or stretched it out. He flipped that. The drum kit comes in, and then we got a beat. That kind of does carry out through the rest of the album.
Yeah, I agree. But in the same token,
still dope, but
yeah, it is. But in the same token, it's such a contrast from what we are exposed to frequently that it's a welcome contrast.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
If in these 15 joints, if I have to listen to that and
every
I
time,
can deal with it.
I'm fine.
When I don't know how much of Rock Marciano's work you've heard.
Sparing.
Rock Marciano just kind of finds a loop and just loops it
and just
raps over it. No drums added to it or anything of that nature typically. So he's kind of a step closer to the standard than that is, and it works for me. It does, and I guess because of the fact that I have such an appreciation for sample music. And an appreciation for sampled music itself as an art form, beyond hip hop as an art form.
Right.
I love it.
Well, you know what I think is so funny is the sample at the very beginning of the album.
Oh, what's his name?
Spirit of Truth.
It's Spirit of Truth, but he has a name.
I don't know his real name. Spirit of Truth. That's some of my favorite internet fodder. Is the Spirit of Truth videos. If anybody want a laugh, look up the Spirit of Truth on YouTube, and there's got to be at least 10 videos, and there's like 3 different periods. It's a guy who was in Long Beach, California in the 90s, and he's like out of the joint, and he's saying some crazy stuff. And actually, he was like on Tosh.0 at one time too. They brought him on. Anyway, that guy.
His name is Don Vincent.
Don Vincent. Really? Okay. I never knew his real name, but he is hilarious.
He is. So okay, where does this fit in the framework of what the album is actually talking about? When you think about the themes in the album, why start it that way?
Because of what the Spirit of Truth does. His first thing is, repeat after me, bitch. And he is completely not what you would expect as the example of somebody who should be reading from the Bible. But yet he is confident and telling and cussing people out when they try to challenge him.
That he knows the truth.
So
is
that's Ras Kass.
Is Ras Kass him?
Ras Kass. I think Ras Kass feels like the message that he's bringing is the truth, but he knows that he may not necessarily be the most accepted medium in order to bring that message. Okay. He knows that, but he knows that people dig it regardless. You know what I'm saying? Because his ego is like that. And so that's what that dude stands in front of the camera. I mean, this is public access TV. He's standing there taking callers, mind you.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. Amazing.
So, yeah, I thought that it was a good start. It was very entertaining for me to
hear. Caught
me
off guard.
Yeah, it caught me off guard to kind of start it. And the themes that he visits in terms of religion. I mean, there's so many different things. He brings some, on Humble Pie, he brings Kanye and Jay-Z and Lil Wayne kind of to task about how their loss of humility has coincided with the lack of humility within the black community. Mm-hmm. And I just ate it up. I love it.
And then he got tracks on there that's just for hip hop's sake too, like telling stories. The track about him and his chick was doing other chicks, then she started doing a chick without him and all. I mean, he's it's like these are rap songs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a complete album.
And I think that this goes to show you what can happen when you really get back to the standard side of producing a rap album, where it's the artist, a producer, maybe a few other collaborators, but they're able to create a conjoined vision that can turn into a cohesive product.
Yes.
We went through this period where, mainstream artists were able to go out and get the hottest tracks from the hottest producers, create a hodgepodge. I kind of call it the Jay-Z effect, to be honest.
That's what it is.
Because even before Jay-Z, when even you look at Illmatic was several different producers, but they were all unified behind the vision of
a
Nas.
project.
He guided that.
There was a project involved.
Right. Whereas
it was just making music.
The Jay-Z formula turned into, you got a song produced by the Neptunes, a song produced by Timbaland, a song produced by Swizz, a song maybe produced by somebody who has a relationship with real hip-hop, like Premier or something like that. But you got to have a song for the club, a song for females, a song about bragging, a song about
money,
how much you love your mama,
all of
a
that.
song about, this, that, and the
just
third.
Just making
and,
songs.
Yeah. And although he does touch those different areas, or some of those different areas, is still under a unified vision. I like what he did with the 48 Laws of Power.
Yes. That was dope.
That was cool. And to be able to put that in a format that's palatable to somebody who's not going to read the book, but still be able to gain something from it.
And another thing I like about Ras Kass is, he's channeling some of the MCs that we respected coming up in the late 80s and early 90s, where so a lot of the MCs that we come up listening to used to spit a lot of 5% mythology, and they had an element of kind of a subculture religion feeling to it, especially being from the Midwest. Being from the Midwest, we don't really have a lot of interaction with that side of black religion. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So this other side of black religion, so this guy's from California, so he talks about being sovereign. He talks about all these I'm not going to say offbeat, but they're definitely not mainstream understandings of what religion really is, or what some of these religious symbols mean in black culture. So he was talking about that years ago. He right back front and center saying the same thing, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, he's not doing it from a preaching standpoint. He just telling you what he know, like an MC should,
And shouts out to Ras Kass, because the level of confidence that it has to take in order to be able to recognize and accept the fact that you stood at a certain pedestal at a certain time, went through a downturn of less than stellar product, less than stellar relationships with your label, and basically losing
trials.
That slot, and being willing to come back, and being willing to step and be an evolved person from who you were before. And I personally think that I call it the Questlove crowd. Us, the older heads, the music snobs, are going to the buzz that he's getting on Twitter already is fantastic, and the response has been fantastic. So to be able to put him back in that conversation, to be honest with you, from about 96 to about 99, he was my favorite rapper.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I put him in the same mode of a Nas. Nas has ascended into Rakim status.
Yeah, you have to.
To a lot of us.
We don't start talking about Mount Rushmore.
When we talk about Rakim, we don't talk about Don't Sweat the Technique.
No.
You know what I'm saying? We talk about everything that happened before that. So Nas has went through what he's went through, but he's still the god to me. But Ras Kass was right there with him. So saying all that to say, at this point for me, I'm always hesitant to throw around the word classic, because classic is something that comes with time. But to me, this is I would rate this no lower than a 4.5.
No way. It's a 4.5 solid, and I wouldn't call it a classic, but it's extremely important right now. And so I don't want to take away from the relevance that the album has. I believe it will have staying power, but I think it's so important for hip hop right now, for Ras Kass to be in the guy that he is, to be doing this quality of music in 2014 is huge. It's major.
And bona fide classics of recent time. You know, when you talk about Good Kid, Mad City, for example, it had the benefit of having a message, having a theme that continued to roll through and drew you in, as well as it had the technical side was very well done.
And a ready and willing fan base.
That
matters.
As well as the ability to expand itself and be something that will draw people in. I don't think that this album is necessarily going to gain him new fans amongst the 18 to 25 range, but it is a very important album, and I'm very honest, I'm very proud of him.
Yeah,
I have to be honest when I say that. I'm very proud that he did this.
I put it right on par with how I felt when Cuban Link 2 came out. Life is Good. These are albums that came out that I thought were directed right to us, to a specific fan base, portion of the fan base, and it was healthy. It's a great album for the time, for his target audience, and I think he did. I mean, it's an excellent job. Excellent album. Album.
Props to Ras Kass. Props to Apollo Brown. I would say 4.5, a strong 4.5, and I'm looking forward to hopefully them doing it again. And I will be copping it. I want to cop the vinyl. I want to buy the vinyl, and I don't. Let's keep it 100. It's the internet age. I don't buy a lot of albums.
Right.
You know, I hear a lot of albums, but I don't buy a lot of albums. But this is something that I do want to have a copy of in my house.
I want to ask you a question too about this Apollo Brown character.
Okay. So yeah, props to Apollo Brown. He's one of my favorites. I still haven't had a chance to meet him. It sounds as though we have a mutual friend. So at some point I will be trying to get at you about some other things, but and not even my own stuff. I mean, I want to just kind of touch base. I want to find out what his thinking is.
Yeah.
You know, so.
What does Detroit hip hop sound like? Now, this is the Apollo Brown opus.
You know, and Black Milk dropped the album too.
Yes, he did.
And I haven't listened to it.
Me either. And Icewear Vezo was tearing up the streets. So what does it sound like? There we go. These are the kinds of conversations that I love to have.
It can't really be quantified.
Like, wrong. So? No way, man. When Dilla, yeah, there was no confusion of what Detroit hip hop sounded like when Dilla was alive.
You know what Detroit hip hop sounds like? Try me.
I'm just saying.
Whole mother family. That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
No, I don't. Seriously, I don't know what this. I think Detroit is like the girl in high school that doesn't know. Does she know where she's going to? Does she like the things that life is showing her? You know what I'm saying? That's what I think Detroit hip hop is, because it has so many different faces to it, and each of them are like on the precipice of going over, but you know, you have the whole Doughboys Cash Out, Icewear, and that's what you hear in the streets.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what you hear in the streets. But you have this whole other tier of Black Milk, Guilty Simpson, Verbal Kent, Apollo Brown,
Guilty Soul,
you know, Quelly Chris, all these people who are making
great music,
stuff that we love.
Like.
Boom bap.
Absolutely. And that's why I asked the question. I don't think there was that debate when Donuts dropped. You see what I'm saying?
Because nobody was cranking.
But you see what I'm saying?
Trick
was cranking. I mean, what?
Eastside Cheddar Boys.
Cheddar Boys.
But
do you see where I'm going with that? Like, these are the conversations that we have to have, right? We're getting ready to give the game up here in a minute, though. We're going to be well into our 40s shortly.
Right. The game is passing us by.
Yes, and we have to, you know.
Shout out to Taurus Beats. Taurus Beats is a guy that I know that's making mood. It's almost like jazz hip hop.
Okay.
Like, it's hip hop with samples and hard drums and stuff, with a lot of live keys and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like
organic.
That's kind of it's like urban contemporary hip hop. And I like it.
Yes.
It's passing us by. That's kind of the next stage for people our age. I mean, can you imagine going to the cotillion or something? Somebody, I'll play it for you when we leave here.
You said cotillion on the podcast.
Yeah, but so shout outs to And shout outs to everybody in Detroit that's cranking and trying to, really make Detroit pop. No matter what you're doing. Just because I don't necessarily listen to it doesn't mean it is wrong. I've never said that.
I'm a Cheddar Boy fan.
Yeah, I'm a Cheddar Boy fan.
Blade Icewood was dope.
Never, no.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, Pick and Roll Podcast. NBA season starts this.
I'm sorry.
It starts this week. Pick up Ras Kass's album. You can go to Bandcamp and just search his name. The album is available there. Independent releases. Jamla is cranking with Rhapsody. Mellow Music Group is coming up. You have all these independent acts that's kind of trying to take things over from the other side because nobody is counting. I mean, when Ras Kass dropped this album and sell 5,000 units the first week, people are going to automatically assume that it's a failure, but we have to change the way that we gauge success in the rap game too.
Absolutely.
And I think that he deserves the opportunity to be real successful. So this is the Pick and Roll Podcast. Again, you can follow us at PAR Podcast. Email us at pickandrollpodcast@gmail.com or visit us at pickandrollpodcast.com where you can see an archive of our old shows. Continue to spread the word about us. We love to talk. We love to, and if you have questions and things, please email us.
Absolutely.
Shoot us a line.
We love to respond to those.
We love to respond to what you're saying. The shows are only getting better and better. And for this one, it's a little bit longer. But that's pretty much it. Any last words?
No, that's pretty good. I think we did a good job today. That was a really good NBA preview. And as the season goes on, we'll have different things to talk about. We'll have different footage to look at, and it'll be really a good thing to start looking at some raw footage. Maybe we can put up some videos and break down some games of the week or something. We might look into that later on. So this was a good show.
We're stepping up our Google Hangout game too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're getting good at that.
We may actually start putting the podcast on video and just having conversations from the cut and letting you guys see that. So everything is moving forward. Like I said, pick up that podcast. Enjoy the NBA season. We'll be talking about it all year. The first week is coming up, and I'm really excited. Rodney Stuckey for president, and that's gonna do it for us. I'm Roger Quallin,
and I'm Quentin Barrett,
and this is
the Pick and Roll.